Happy New Year! It is the 1st of January 2025 and we're getting started with a global storm outlook. In these videos we take a look at any random stuff that's going on around the globe in terms of storms, volcanoes, dust storms, all sorts of stuff. So let's just jump into it. Let's take a look at Europe. Well, we've got a big old low pressure system out here in the Atlantic and just a massive front that's spreading across the UK into Denmark and then off into Russia. Wow, look at that thing. And it really marks a division between really cold air up in the north, bit of sea there, and then warmer conditions, or clearer conditions with a lot of fog apparently down here. So we'll take a look at that. But as this thing moves down across Europe, it's going to come down and bring that cold air and snowfall across France into Switzerland, Germany. And we're looking at some snowfall down to low levels, I think. We'll check that out too. Also, we should check out whether Cyra have corrected the locations of their countries. No, I have not. Portugal is still out in the middle of the ocean out here, and France is down here in southern Spain. Yeah, it's actually pretty amazing the amount of fog that's been over southern and central Europe. This is actually the morning of December 31st, so yesterday morning. But all of these areas are all foggy areas. So this is down in Spain, in all of the little nooks and crannies and basins and whatnot, all over whatever. This is Germany, and then look at this area. So huge areas of fog. I wonder whether Sentinel-2, the more detailed satellite, might get a look at this. But let's just zoom in a bit at one of these areas. This looks kind of nice over here. Yeah, some nice little pockets of fog, but not the best detail. And you can see snow on the top of some of the Pyrenees down here, and then over here are the Cevennes, and then into the Alps. The fog structures look particularly cool from space in the Terra Modis, and this is the time when the Sentinel-2 more detailed satellite may have gone over. I think particularly this area in the Western Alps, so I'll check that out. To do this, I'm using Browser, which is available for free for anyone, and I'm using the non-login version. I have the login, but I'm going to just use the free version because I don't even need to log in to use this. If you just use the standard setup with just keep Sentinel-2 selected, I've zoomed into southeastern France, that area. So let's just see if it got a pass. You just click search and you'll see the latest pass. So look, we've got a pass on the 31st of December over these areas, looks like. So that's quite good. It misses a little bit of the foggy areas, but yeah, this is looking pretty interesting. So I'm just going to plot this and see what we've got. Now it's going to be a little bright probably, and it's also got some strange processing just in the standard default as it comes out. And also you may have to zoom in to actually load the imagery. So there are a few little tricks you need to know about to get this to work properly. You can see it's not actually loading in. So the first thing is, if it's kind of new data, sometimes, all right, it is now loading in. So we're looking down at the beautiful Alps. And so this is actually the Sentinel L2A, which is processed, and it kind of is a bit weird. They do some strange sort of shadow correction for terrain and stuff like that. I don't really understand it. But to get a more realistic view, just click on Show L1C, and that will give us another view, and it's also going to be a bit bright on the snow. So we'll do a little trick to sort that out in a moment. So I'm just going to find some of that fog. So yeah, here we go. As you can see, it's coming into the valleys. This is the fog, and then this is the snow. We've got a nice contrast. So if we click over on the left on Highlight Optimize Natural Color, oh, and that's actually over this Lake Constance. Then that kind of, that does some processing that limits the really bright areas. And now we can go zoom in and check out that fog in more detail. Just let it settle down. There's actually a little bar at the top, a green bar that shows you when the data is loading. And once that completes, then it's been loaded in. So there we have it. We've got a pretty detailed view of that fog rolling in up this valley and off that lake. So that's pretty cool. It's over the lake over here. If I just remove the imagery, you see the lake underneath there. I bring it back in. And yeah, and then there's a little town down here, Dornbirn, just coming out of the fog. So that's something fun to explore around with. Actually, I'll just show it in 3 dimensions too, because that's the other trick. So if you go on the right, you can click on 3D. The first thing you want to do, as with the processing, the first thing is you want to remove what is being put in standard, which is this little light bulb up here, which is they're actually artificially introducing some shadows over terrain. Now, this just doesn't really make any sense to me because we've already got shadows in the imagery, so putting in more shadows, anyway, I don't like it. So just remove it, and it's gone. So I'll just bring it back to show the difference. So we've got shadows, no shadows. So get rid of those shadows, and this is actually 3D now, and if you hold down the middle mouse button, you can rotate around and see the whole scene in 3 dimensions, which is super amazing. And you can also hold down the right mouse button to kind of tour in and out, just holding like that. And you've got the view over the Alps. Over in the distance, you'll see the data is not loaded in there. And we can get a really nice view over the this foggy area. So I just wanted to show that to start off with. Let's move on. I will go into all of the aspects about how to work with this data a bit more in other videos. And there are other videos on this channel which already look at this a little bit. All right, I can already see what's going to happen with these videos. I'm going to get way sidetracked on looking at that EO browser thing and other stuff to try and explain what's going on in those. But anyway, let's get back to the issue of this front and the snow coming in from the north. It's actually, yeah, it's not really that warm ahead of the front. So it's interesting that it's actually quite cold to the south of the front as well as to the north. So it's kind of like a strange front, really, isn't it? There's actually snowfall being detected down in Algeria in the higher mountains, which is interesting. So that's showing there's some cold air and somewhat of a disturbance down here. We'll get to that in the Africa section if we actually get there. Anyway, let's go forward. Right, so we've got really quite a lot of snow coming down across the UK. We've got rain with snow and then snow up in the Scottish mountains. So that front is then coming down, moving down over France, and then as it hits that cold land, it's turning to wet snow, maybe some actual snow over somewhat higher hills, I guess. But it does look like a bit of sort of a wet, nasty snow over most of France, moving through Paris. So maybe that might be the type of snow that produces really large, juicy flakes. Sometimes that's the stuff that's really close to freezing. And so that moves down and over Germany in particular and Czechia. I almost said Chechnya, but that's Czechia. So then we've got really quite a lot of snow over these areas of southern Germany as it heads into the mountains and then into the Alps. I'm going to look at the accumulations to see just how much snow is falling here. But the cold conditions settle in quite significantly over most of Europe, and then it really heads down. Look at the amount of snow down here in Croatia. Lots of snow there. So let's take a look at the totals that we're looking at for Europe. Total snowfall, where is that? New snow, here we go. So if we go from today, Wednesday the 1st, and then go to the 5th, let's say. Here we've got a view of the total snowfall predictions. So looks like most of the snow is in northern to central England and northwest Scotland in particular for the UK, and then Ireland also getting a lot of snow. Wow, 34 centimeters in central West Ireland. That is really a lot of snow for Ireland. Huh. Okay. Well, actually, Ireland is now looking like a bit of a hotspot because that is really a significant amount of snow for Ireland, which is usually fairly mild in winter because of the westerlies. And then Croatia is the other real heavy snowfall place. That's a bit later on in the forecast. I did want to check that really heavy Ireland snow, and it turns out that it's actually quite late on in the week. So as we go to the 2nd of January, Ireland does get cold, but there isn't actually that much snow, mainly in the far north. What happens is on Saturday and into Sunday, a storm system moves in from the southwest and it hits that cold air, and that turns to snow over Ireland in the ECMWF model. So we're looking at next weekend. This is one of those really bad situations where the cold air clashes with all of that moisture and you get really heavy snow. And if the storm system doesn't push all that mild air totally across, then what you get is a lot of the cold side of the moisture, and you keep the cold air, so it just snows. So we're looking at really heavy snow over Ireland and the UK by next weekend, according to the European Centre model. So we should compare with the global forecasting system model to see how it looks, and it actually puts the storm system a bit further to the south and brings a lot of snow into southern England. Whoa. Oh wow, that's kind of interesting. So depending on where this storm system goes, it could be heavy snow for South England, it could be heavy snow for Ireland and North England. It is a few days off, but potentially significant snow event for the UK and France. Alright, this video is already spiraling out of control, getting distracted by a snow event potential for the UK. So let's head over to Japan, and just a real monster low pressure system off to the east of Japan. You can see Hokkaido is actually in the clear, but all snow covered as that cold air blasts down off Russia across the Sea of Japan, picking up snow showers. This storm system is actually going to be a big wave generator, and that sends the waves in this direction away from Japan. But where does it go? It goes over here, and somewhere down here we're going to see a little bit of a puff of smoke, and that's actually volcanic fog down here, and that's coming from the big island of Hawaii, which is down here. So this is actually, the volcano is erupting at the moment. It's producing this plume of volcanic fog coming off. A little bit of a spiral here because these volcanoes are absolutely massive. You can just see the plume actually there. I will check the Sentinel-2 actually to just see for some more detailed views of the volcano. But getting back to that surf is going to be coming off this storm, and then that actually, even though it's a long way away, that eventually is going to shoot down. I need a thicker one of these. Shoot down towards Hawaii. I think that the arrival of the swell is next weekend. Let's check the waves. By the way, I've just noticed something else on this, which is, look at this little low pressure system. It looks pretty small and nasty, strange thing. I'm gonna have to look at an animation of this. What the hell is that? Oh wow. Okay. After looking at the waves, I'm gonna look at this little low pressure because that's pretty weird. We're gonna animate this. Alright, but before doing that, we are looking at this swell for Hawaii. Because I used to live in Hawaii, so I'm interested in these. We used to obsess over the waves. So these are the winds kind of around now, Wednesday evening here in Australia. And so here's the storm system with, let's check out these, what are these what are the winds over here? Pretty strong, probably, yeah, a bit below hurricane force. Strong tropical storm force. Winds of 57 knots being detected. Sustained gusts will be much higher. And if you click over on the right, we're going to see the wave forecast prediction waves. I'll just go for waves. They've got a swell. I have to figure out what all the differences in these, but let's just check out the waves. So currently huge waves of 34 feet within this storm, and as we go forward we're going to see that swell move towards Hawaii, and it looks like the peak, the days are down in the bottom. So this is the 2nd of January, and then this will be moving into the 3rd of January as we go forward, and then you can see it hitting, the swell is hitting all of the minor outer northwest Hawaiian islands here, which are the tiny atolls, and so each one of them produces a bit of a wake, and then you can see all the smaller islands. It's kind of ghostly, really, isn't it? So the swell in this model is arriving on Kauai and Oahu on, but it's actually probably late Saturday. And even though it says Sunday, I'm in Australia, so they're a long way back in time. So that's actually into Saturday. So Saturday into Sunday, the swell arrives, and let's take a look at these heights we've got here. 14 feet from the northwest, period 16 seconds. Okay, so let's click on this swell, and that might give an idea of the longer period. Yeah, it's 13 feet at 17 seconds. So a pretty solid northwest swell. I'd have to check that old calculation for working out what the face height that actually means, but I suspect they'll have a high surf advisory or warning in effect for this swell. So here at YouStorm, we like the strange little storms, and that was a strange one we saw a little earlier there. In order to animate it, we're going to have to go back a bit in time, and we're going to have to switch satellites. So right now I'm in RAMMB Slider. You'll see a link in the video description if you want to explore for yourself. Go to the left, click down to Goes West. That's the one. This one is going to be looking down on Hawaii. You do a Shift R to reload, or Control R. Control R. For me, that reloads. And that little storm system is up here, and this is a little bit later. I want to go back in time. I'm actually going to increase the time step in order to go back. You often have to keep reloading in order to make this work. So this, if you increase the time step, you'll get a jumpier loop, but then you can find the times when it looks interesting quicker. And then later on you can reduce the time steps and use the historical imagery to actually get the proper loop. So there is our storm system. It's going to just take a little moment to load in. Here it comes. Oh, it's struggling a bit on full screen, which is not surprising. Yeah, so looks like it's beyond the beginning of this time. I'm going to go back to there. Right, there we go. It's quite an interesting looking system. I'm going to just work on this a little bit and back to you in a second. Yeah, that took a little while to get this properly up, but this is a loop showing the evolution of this storm over about 3 hours, is it? Maybe 2. Probably a hybrid storm system, probably a warm core developing in the middle of, looks like it's wrapping up on a kind of a frontal zone. Very interesting. Intensity wise, that little storm system was in the European Center model here approaching 60 knots, which is only 4 knots off hurricane strength. Not out of the question that this was a hurricane strength storm. Anyway, behind that storm system, in the northwest Pacific, this huge monster extratropical cyclone. We've got Japan over here, and there are a couple of things that are really interesting about, many things interesting about Japanese weather. But particularly the west-east divide in the snow cover, and the mountains filter out a lot of the cloud snow. So over Tokyo down here, you see it's relatively mild and clear. You go up towards the west, it's all cloud covered, and in here it'll be snowing quite heavily over the mountains. That's because these snow showers aren't really that deep, so they don't project over that often over towards Tokyo. But anyway, when it comes to Hokkaido, well, it's cold up here, colder, and there's a lot of snow showers coming off the Sea of Japan. But this time of year, we're getting into January, and as we go into February, we're going to get sea ice coming down off Sakhalin, Russia up here, Sakhalin Island. And that sea ice is here. You can see it piling down, and it piles down, it moves down quickly down the coast. You can see it pouring off this peninsula, coming down. It's about to hit this peninsula. Eventually, within the next few weeks, this is going to pile in, and then it's going to probably come down, well, almost certainly as it does pretty much every year, comes down and then impacts the northern coast of Hokkaido, which is where you can go on a tourist boat to go out and go into the sea ice. So that's something really cool that's going to be happening that we'll keep an eye on. So lots of interesting stuff going on, and I haven't even got to a lot of things I wanted to look at, but we're going to have to leave it at that for today because it's taking a bit of time. I know there's a big storm system in North America that I haven't looked at, but maybe we'll look at that tomorrow. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.